Hi guys, welcome back. The last time we saw each other, I was telling you guys about the first leg of our trip through LA and into the Las Vegas area. This time I'm going to talk about our adventures in Utah, a brief review of the campground that we stayed at, and most likely the reason you clicked on this video, Zion National Park. As we're getting into camping season and you guys are making all these plans and reservations, I really hope that some of my stories are helpful for you guys as you are kind of moving forward. It makes me feel good when you guys like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. So now that all that is out of the way, let's get into it. So we drove from Nellis Air Force Base. We drove up to Hurricane, Utah. At the time that we went, the KOA St. George/Hurricane was the only place that had any availability, which is about 50 minutes to an hour outside Zion National Park. So that's how long it took us to get to where we were like, oh, there's the visitor center. Zion does actually have camping available. It looked pretty cool, but they just fill up pretty quickly, and I guess I dropped the ball on that, so we did not get to stay there. So if you're like us and you end up having to stay out of the park, just something to think about. Make sure that you allot enough time to get there, because you can get kind of stuck in quite a bit of traffic in Springdale in the morning. So I will also tell you that the Hurricane Cliffs recreation area is about 30 minutes outside of Zion National Park, and that is actually public lands, are what we call BLM. And just as a reminder, BLM is basically Bureau of Land Management, and it's free, but there are no amenities. So there is no water hookup, there's no power, and there is no sewer. The area around the KOA that we stayed in has a Walmart nearby, which was super helpful. There is a historical site nearby that's called the Kiln, and it is actually directly next to Quail Creek State Park. So if you have a couple down days and you want something a little slower paced to do, those might be some things to look into. So the KOA that we stayed at was actually our first ever experience staying at a KOA. The campground itself was clean, the staff was super friendly, and they had a small pool that had some really beautiful mountain views. I can't speak to any of like the communal bathrooms or tent camping or anything like that, because we didn't use that. We just stayed inside of our RV. But the spots all had full hookups, and the spaces here seem to be really well maintained. I want to talk about what's called buddy sites. I had never heard of a buddy site. I had never seen a buddy site before. I had no clue what a buddy site was before staying at this campground. A buddy site is basically where two RVs will pull in opposite directions, so that when we both open our doors, we're kind of both looking into each other's RVs. I guess they do this to save space and they can fit more people in the park. I guess I don't get the appeal, maybe. I think this would be fine if maybe you were traveling with friends or family and you wanted to book two separate spaces and kind of just have one big party, or if privacy is not a big deal to you. We were not the biggest fans. Our neighbors were pretty loud and had already dragged our picnic table over, and we're just really there to party. So if you're there to party, this might be the type of site that you might like. It wasn't great for us, but honestly, we were in the park all day, so it wasn't like the biggest deal. Just kind of keep this in mind if you are planning on having a down day, or you just want to chill at the campground. This could be you. In short, would we stay at this campground again? No. It was a really nice campground, but I cannot say that I would ever knowingly book a buddy site again. And I think that KOAs are kind of expensive, especially compared to state parks or a lot of kind of like mom and pop places. So gonna have to pass. On to the actual park. filming this video, you do not need a reservation to go to Zion National Park. Things change all the time. And I mean, like, between planning the trip, you need to just keep hitting refresh, because I see stuff just change on the website all the time. Some of the things that I'm telling you about today are different even from when we were there, and we weren't there that long ago. So they may end up switching back to a reservation system. So, you know, just double check to be on the safe side. It does look like, however, and this is a new update since we went, it looks like you do need a permit to hike Angel's Landing. It seems like they just started a new pilot permit program. I will link to that in below. I can't speak to that experience, because at the time that we went, you did need a reservation to get into the park, and you did not need a permit for Angel's Landing. So double check that. So what most people are going to tell you to do when you're going to go visit Zion National Park is they're going to tell you, go to Springdale and hop on the shuttle. That is kind of true. Traffic can back up the closer you get to the Zion entrance. And there are basically different lots throughout town where you walk up to a little machine and you just pay for parking for the day. Along the main drag, there's a lot of different shuttle stops, and that is the Springdale Shuttle. And they will drop you off at the visitor center, and then they come back and they'll drop you off at your parking lot at the different stops. So here's the catch. What they don't tell you is that the shuttles are very small. They just can't accommodate many people at once. They can't fit that many people in there. And if the shuttle is full, they will just pass you. The closer you get to the entrance on a busy day, the lower the odds of you actually being able to get on that shuttle are. At least that was our experience. We actually had better luck parking in a lot that was further away, because it was a lot easier for us to actually get a seat on the shuttle. There is also, much closer to the park's entrance, a small privately owned gravel lot, but it's way more expensive than the city lots. I don't remember. I want to say it was either $20 or $25, which was, it just was more expensive than any of your other options. But at one point we were just kind of sick of, you know, we want to get into the park and not waste our whole trip, so we kind of just paid that lazy tax, I guess. That was a lesson that pretty much cost us the entire morning one day. Hopefully this little tidbit helps, and it just helps you to make better use of your time. So once we actually made it to the park entrance, we showed our parks pass, and then we were on our way. Make sure to get a map out of the front. We have found that the maps that are on the National Park Service app they're just not as good as the paper map that you get. The trails just are a little more closely outlined, and the landmarks for us, it was just a better display for wayfinding purposes. Now it's time to figure out the Zion Shuttle. At the visitor center, you find restrooms. There's going to be places to refill your water bottles. Please do it. And they have ice cream, which is delicious, and they also have a shuttle pickup location. So while there's a few trails that are actually accessible from the visitor center, you're still going to need to get on the shuttle to visit the rest of the trails. There is actually also only one trail in the whole national park there that allows dogs, and that trail is actually accessible from the visitor center. So the shuttles are pretty easy to navigate. They come by pretty frequently, but you need to be hyper aware of when the cutoff is for that last shuttle, because they will let you know right away, and they will let you know often that if you are not on that last shuttle in the evening, then you are on your own. And I cannot imagine how dark it gets there. So I know I touched on this in the last video, and I just really want to reiterate to you guys how important being prepared is. Bring lots of water with you. It is very easy to overheat. The first day when we were like messing around and couldn't figure out parking, we did the Emerald Trail, and I actually overheated because I didn't bring enough water. So I'm telling you from experience. The rest of the trip, we had 4 liters of water with us. We had a 2-liter bladder in the backpack, and then we each had 2 more liters on the side. So each of us had a total of 4 liters. I know it sounds heavy, but totally worth it. And if you're doing it right, it won't be heavy for long, right? It gets lighter the more you drink it. So you will really want to wear some good shoes. I have the Merrell Moab 2 boots. My husband has some Asics hiking shoes. And a lot of people wear Tevas, which I think would be really great for hiking the Narrows, which has you hiking almost entirely in water. Personally, though, I think I would go with the ones that are closed-toed because some of those rocks are either sharp or you can slam your toes up against them when you take a step, and ouch. Additionally, we have a set of trekking poles that we usually share. We've never been in a situation where I felt like I needed both of the poles. They will help you on some of the trails where you need a little bit of help balancing, but I found them particularly helpful in the Narrows because they help me determine my next step, and they also help me figure out how deep the water was in certain places. We also had some neck gaiters, which were really awesome, not just to keep the sun off your neck, but they're really great for when that wind is kind of whipping around. You will get sand in your mouth, you will get sand in your nose, sand everywhere. So the neck gaiter really helps with that. You can also use it as a headband or a sweatband, so it really comes in handy. So over the course of our week at Zion, we did 6 of the 9 different hiking trails that were included in the map, not including the Kolob Canyon trails. They were all pretty magical, but I have to say our favorites were the Narrows and Angel's Landing. We almost made it to the very top of Angel's Landing, but the wind that day was crazy strong and we just got kind of nervous. They told us a story about how somebody there had just died right before we got there at Angel's Landing. That trail does have some fatalities. Keep in mind there's no railing or anything like that, so you are relying on a chain that is attached to the rocks to hold on to in order to keep going up. There will also be people on the same route as you who are using the chain to go back down, so at some point you're going to have to maneuver around them to keep from falling. This can be pretty scary if it is overcrowded. Just something to think about, and I think that is probably one of the reasons that they started that permit pilot program. The more people are on this trail, the more dangerous the trail feels. When you go and there's not that many people, you just feel high up, but it just doesn't feel nearly as scary as it's like when you're crowd hiking. If someone in your group is not as mobile, you can actually take a scenic drive on the Zion Mount Carmel Highway. So there's actually a tunnel on that road though, so if you want to take your RV, you're going to actually have to check the size restrictions on their website. The other roads that are available there to get to the trailheads are really only for the shuttle buses. I think they're restricted for really most of the year. If you have worked up an appetite, Springdale actually has some pretty good food to eat. Our favorite was a place called Thai Sapa, and it was actually within walking distance from the visitor center. There is also a supermarket that is nearby, and they had a pretty good selection. So if you want to make sandwiches, or if you want to take some prepared foods, you really are kind of like spoiled for choice in terms of where to have a beautiful picnic. Just remember, please take your trash with you. You know, pack it in, pack it out. That's like an absolute pet peeve of mine, to just look around and be like, wow, my problems are so minuscule and I'm a speck of dust in the universe. And like, oh yeah, there's an In-N-Out cup on the ground, so just pick it up. Anyway, I'll post a link to where you can find all the info for the Springdale Shuttle, the info on the Zion hours, as well as their shuttle info. Again, I just want to reiterate that the information changes pretty frequently. That just seems to be like the theme of the past couple years. It's constant information changing. So just the closer you get to your trip, just keep refreshing that page. This video is probably super long at this point, so I know that future Lauren is probably editing this and telling me to wrap it up. So with that, I'm gonna sign off, and I will be back later with the next leg of the trip. In the meantime, comment down below, have you guys ever camped at buddy sites? Is it just me? Am I like the buddy site Grinch? I didn't like it. Is everybody else like, is this their favorite thing? Do you have any Zion tip trips to share? Because I know we obviously didn't do everything, and I feel like Zion's one of those places you can't do everything in one trip. So with that, I will see you guys next time. Go forth, be kind, be creative. Bye guys.